This is the last lesson in Unit 8, which is Lesson 9, where we learn to use the discriminant to determine if a quadratic has 0, 1, or 2 solutions. So first of all, let's review three things. The square root of 16 is 4, because 4 times 4 is 16, so the square root of 4 is, or square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 0 is 0, because 0 times 0 is 0, therefore the square root of 0 is 0. Now what about negative 16? Many of you might think it's negative 4. Well, that would mean negative 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. When in fact, negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 4. So it's not that. Well, maybe it's just 4 then. Well, 4 would mean 4 times 4, which is not a negative 16. So there's no way to take a square root of a negative number. Other of you might think it's negative 4 times positive 4. But if we're talking about square roots, the square root is something times itself. Something times itself. This is two different numbers times each other. So negative 4 times positive 4. So this actually has no real solution. It will actually have a imaginary solution because of the imaginary number systems, but that's not Algebra 1. This has no real solution. We can't do this. With that being said, let's take a look at these three examples. So, situation number 1. We have negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16. So that's negative 4 plus or minus square root of 16 is 4. From here, we'll split this up into two separate equations. X equals negative 4 plus 4 divided by 2, and x equals negative 4 minus 4 divided by 2. So negative 4 plus 4 is 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. Negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So I actually got two solutions. If we take a look at the discriminant is what's underneath the square root. Okay? The discriminant is the square root of b squared minus 4ac. This value right here, that is the discriminant. In this case, it's a positive 16. And when the discriminant is positive, we're going to get two solutions. Why are we going to get two solutions? Because we're adding and subtracting a number to make two different answers, right? We ended up doing negative 4 plus 4 divided by 2 and negative 4 minus 4 divided by 2. We're used to this. Let's take a look at situation 2. Negative 4 plus or minus 0. Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 0 is 0. So this is actually negative 4 plus 0 and negative 4 minus 0, which is actually just negative 4. So the answer is negative 2. So when our discriminant is 0, we only got one solution. Discriminant is 0, therefore there's only going to be one solution. Because the square root of 0 simplifies to 0. So you're just adding and subtracting 0, which really means that this part goes away. The last situation is situation 3. Let me just cover that up again. Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16. Now, square root of negative 16. Like we said before, this has no real solution. So this whole thing has no real solution. There are going to be 0 solutions to that quadratic. So if the discriminant is negative, therefore there are no real solutions. Because you can't take the square root of a negative number, so this thing just doesn't exist in the real number system. So, that being said, let's do a couple examples. Example number 1. This says, what is the solution set of the quadratic equation? This means we need something like x equals. So first thing, I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides because I need this set equal to 0. I now have 9x squared plus 6x plus 1 equals 0. I'm going to define a, b, and c. A is 9, b is 6, c is 1. Then I'm going to substitute them into the quadratic formula because I need to solve for x. X equals a negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Simplifies to negative 6 plus or minus the square root. I'm going to simplify this. 6 squared is 36. 9 times 1 is 9. Negative 4 times 9 is a negative 36. So this equals 0. Before we continue, because it's the square root of 0, we know that there's going to be one solution. Let's continue. So this will be negative 6 plus or minus square root of 0 is 0. So the 0 actually just drops off. Negative 6 over 18, which reduces to, this is 2 times 3. Oh no, sorry. This is 6 times 1. This is 6 times 3. So we're left with negative 1/3. All right, number 2. This one says, how many solutions are there to the quadratic below? So this is going to have an answer like 0, 1, or 2 solutions, right? It will have 0 solutions if the discriminant is negative. It will have 1 solution if the discriminant is 0. It will have 2 solutions if the discriminant is positive. So let's go ahead. And since we're talking about the discriminant, we just need b squared minus 4ac. So that's all we need to plug things into. A, B, C. A is 4, B is negative 3, C is 5. We just need to check b squared minus 4ac, because remember that's part of the square root. B is negative 3 squared minus 4ac. Negative 3 squared is 9. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 20 is 80. 9 minus 80 is negative 71. So since this would be a negative 71, that means like when you're doing your quadratic formula, it would be a negative 71. So there are actually going to be no real solutions because b squared minus 4ac equals a negative 71. Be sure to check your answer keys.